In this video, we're going to show you how to remove and replace a lower ball joint on a two-wheel drive Ford F-150. It's located in the front knuckle on the lower part. Remove the tire just to have better access. We're going to remove the caliper, 2 slider pins, 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch wrench or socket. I'm going to loosen up the slider bolts. Now I'm going to remove this caliper and I'm going to hang it someplace safely away. I have a caliper hanger bracket, so I'm just going to pull it forward like that, hook this in, and bring it on up here. Now I'm just going to remove my pads and place it out of the way. Now I'm going to remove this cotter pin to remove the outer tire end. I'm just going to actually disconnect it from the knuckle. This is a two-wheel drive vehicle, so the actual rotor has a bearing in it, so I'm not going to take the rotor off. You can if you want to make it lighter, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to leave it on, less work. Discard this cotter pin, it's no good. 21 millimeter socket, we're going to take that castle nut off. I'm just going to bonk that knuckle right there, get that. Actually, I'm going to put my castle nut on because I don't want it to fall down once it loosens up. Now I'm going to remove this old cotter pin on the lower ball joint. Okay, let's get a wrench for that. I'm going to spray this up, get that ready, and that is a 1 1/8 socket or wrench. And we will be using a wrench today. Okay, 1 1/8. So I use a little help with a wrench. And then we'll just take our time and work this thing out. Okay, so the key here is not to take this castle nut all the way off, because in order to do the low ball joint, you have to take the upper ball joint out too. So now we're going to remove this pinch bolt and this eccentric, which is a cam adjuster, and we're going to then take the whole knuckle out and press out the upper and lower ball joint. So I'm going to take what we call the pinch bolt out. This is an 18 millimeter wrench on this side, 15 millimeter sock on the bolt head. So now that I have the pinch bolt out of the way and the castle nuts just threaded on, 1/8 of a way there, I'm going to soak this down because then I'm going to take my pneumatic air chisel and I'm going to have to kind of break this cam loose, and then I'm going to hammer both the knuckle downward so that the ball joints will slide out. We really want to soak this down and let that sit Might keep soaking it for a 10-15 minute process. And then we'll come back. I'm going to spread the knuckle. See if I can get this to move now. I'm going to end up reusing that eccentric because that's the cam adjustment. And now I'm going to take my flat air chisel and hammer it out. So now you're going to find out why I leave this castle nut on. Extremely important, because once this breaks free, if you don't have anything here, that whole knuckle and rotor is falling to the floor, which is not really great for anyone. So this castle nut being on, not just one thread, because the weight of it could drop it. I've got it on, like I said, halfway to a quarter way. And here we go. All right, so, well, it's frozen in there pretty good. Now I'm going to take the castle nut off. I'm going to roll over a cart that I have to catch this when it falls. I might end up using the ball joint press on this to try to squeeze it out. All right, so I load my table barely on it. I'm going to take my air chisel first and see if I can just manipulate this stud to the ball joint out. Just like that. All right, now we can get our ball joint press and press them out. I'm just going to spray the bottom here so we can get this clamp off easily. And then come around the top here. Just get some spray in there to help that when it comes time to press that out. There we go. Now with a pair of snap ring pliers, I'm going to go right in those two little eyelets, squeeze my pliers, and hopefully get that off. All right, so once I put my snap ring pliers in there, I get a nice little flathead screwdriver, and that way I can manipulate this all the way around. Let go of the pliers, and it'll probably snap back, but you just have to work this. It's a process. Just like that. Well, let's remove the old grease fitting. Use a 5/16 wrench. Because even if I don't get it with my air chisel and I need to use the ball joint press, you don't want that in the way. So whenever you're pressing a ball joint out with a ball joint press, the setup, especially with this one, you see you've got the stud and you're pressing this through. The knurls are stuck in here, and I'll show you that on the new ball joint. So you get a cup that is the diameter, not stopping that ball joint from pressing through. You want it to be loose and clear through. It's taking pressure on that knuckle. Grab the cone, solid cone, so that the stud can go right through, and use the opened end of that ball joint like that. So let's set it up. And I just used the air chisel earlier just to give it a little shake in there. Rust gets really tight, and I like to just wake it up. Never knurl these ends over, because then it's not going to press through that knuckle. All right, so now we've got the setup ready to go, and here we go. The low ball joint. On the upper ball joint, 3/8 wrench is going to take this grease fitting right off. So remove the old grease fitting. Put that out of there. Now we're going to get our ball joint press set up. I'm going to put the cap over there and pull it right through. So I got the cap, and then I got the actual. Make sure you take the head that the hole will go right through, so that stud of the ball joint. And I'm going to take on, put the clamp in, and you are going to have to put the stem right through that lower. That's why these ball joints are done together. There's the upper ball joint. You remove the lower first, then remove the upper, install the upper first, then the lower last. So with some sandpaper, I'm going to clean, make sure there's no burrs in there. All right, so now I'm just going to take a little bit of penetrating spray, just give it a little, both of them. Perfect. Okay, so now that we're pressing this in, I need to put basically this piece. I'm going to put the piece that sits in there like that. We're going to end up doing reverse on this. So this is going to go here and get pushed in. So let's start the threaded rod. Nice. Now on this one, it's going in this way. I'm going to take the boot off because I don't want to pinch it. And hopefully, don't get any grease and dirt in there, in the grease. So I'm going to put the boot aside. So I'm sliding this piece right over. And we're going to put the ball joint press through it, and it's going to pull it through. And I'm going to put this piece on the bottom. Like that. Center that. Snug it up a little bit. So now we pulled that all the way through. I'm going to put that boot on ASAP because I don't want any dirt getting in there. And then we can sit this down like that. And we're going to put our snap ring on. So now we have our new snap ring. Just line it up, bring it over. There you go. So make sure you have your new castle nut handy. Make sure it threads. It should, but yep. Hold it aside. So you're going to want to make sure that your studs are parallel to each other. Make sure it looks like it's fairly straight. Now we can stand it upright. Rest it for a second. And I'm going to get the castle nut ready to go. Right in my hand. Get my 1 1/8 wrench. We're just gonna keep in the tray there just in case. I'm just gonna give it a couple of snug, good full turns. Now I can get that cam eccentric for the top, which I left right here. Make sure we get that starting to line up properly too. Nice. So now we're going to torque the lower ball joint castle nut, and it is 58 foot-pounds. That's going to be a 28 millimeter socket or 1 1/8 standard. So 58 foot-pounds. Now we can put in our lower cotter pin. So now we're going to put in our upper ball joint pinch bolt. So you want to make sure that eccentric cam has that cutout. It's like a half moon, lines right up in that bolt hole. Then we can put that right through. Put the nut on the other side. And now these are 18 millimeter. The head of the bolt and the nut is an 18 millimeter. Okay. 18mm socket and torque wrench, and the torque spec is 97 foot-pounds for this upper pinch bolt. I'm going to put my wrench on the back. So now we're going to put the outer tie rod on it. So I'm going to just pivot this out till it lines up, right about where we left it off. Grab the castle nut. And the torque spec is 63 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to snug it up real quick, and then I'll torque it down to 63 foot-pounds. Make sure the new cotter pin can line up. Put your new cotter pin through. All right, now we can put our brake caliper back on. So we're going to put the shims back on, or the hardware for that caliper bracket. Slide it back on. Still has plenty of the caliper grease on there, because it looks like this brake job was recently done. So now I can slide this inner shoe in, right in there. Put your outer pad in. That's it. Now we can grab our caliper. Make sure we don't have a twisted hose. And line it right up. And push it down. You can hear that click right in. I'm going to give this a turn so we can see it better. And I'm going to put my 2 caliper slide bolts in. Start it by hand so that way we don't cross thread anything. The head of that bolt is 13mm or 1/2 inch. I'm just going to bottom mount. And get my torque wrench, and we're going to torque that to anywhere from 22 to 27 foot-pounds. I'm going to pick right in between, 25. So now I'm just going to clean with a little parts cleaner from the grease from my hands, and then the wheel is ready to go on. Reinstall the 5 lug nuts. Snug them up in a star pattern. Now we lower it and torque it. The torque for the wheel on this Ford is 100 foot-pounds. Always do it in a star pattern. Double check. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.